Welcome to the Graceful Exit podcast. I'm Kimberlee Hoertz, founder of the Graceful Exit, created to educate, empower, and support women as they navigate divorce. Beginning with us, we are putting a stop to the divorce stigma through meaningful conversations about the emotional and endearing experience divorce often brings. My hope is that you'll follow along on this journey and join our community of women navigating divorce with grace. Hi, all. Welcome again to the Graceful Exit podcast. And I have the pleasure of interviewing Wendy Sterling today, who is the founder of Divorce Rehab. So, Wendy, if you don't mind, you can share a little personal and professional about your journey in life.
Sure. It's so nice to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me on. And
Absolutely.
I love sharing my story because everybody is going to find a little bit of themselves in my story. So I was with my now ex-husband for over 20 years. We met when we were 18. I spent more than half my adult life with him together. And of those years, we were married for about 15 of them. And we were both very focused on our careers. I was a rising executive in the digital ad space, working for top women's lifestyle brands, was one of the pioneers in the digital space when, the banner ad came on the scene. That's really how long ago I started working in digital ad sales. And, my now ex-husband, same thing. He's an attorney. He is, was building up his career. And after we had gotten married, we buckled down, we focused on our careers and enjoying our time together. And we had two beautiful boys who are just my pride and joy. And it wasn't until a night, which is actually, it's crazy because it's my 5-year anniversary, if you can believe it, of that fateful night where the entire foundation of my life that I had known for so long came crashing down around me. And it was one of those moments where I was wondering if this was really happening. It was a pinch me moment. It was also a punch to my gut that I will never forget. We had, like I said, we had been married 15 years at that point. Our kids were 10 and 7, and we were driving home one night from a couple's night out, which was, a rare occurrence when you could get a babysitter and enjoy a night out. And I remember we were driving home and his phone rang. Not once, but 5 times from the same female. And I, for the first time in my life, listened to my intuition because I felt a blow to my gut like I had never felt before, and something felt really off. Mm-hmm. And after I had decided to confront him and really question him deeper in person after we got home, I could tell that the way that he was evading questions, that there was something going on that just, wasn't kosher. Right. And so we got into a pretty big argument, and later that night we went to bed angry, which we rarely do or rarely did. And I remember waking up the next morning and I went to go work out, and exercise for me has always been kind of my outlet. It's also been where I do my best thinking. And I remember I was running on the treadmill during my class, and I just got this epiphany that like something was wrong. And he wasn't telling me something. And so I remember coming home and confronting him, and he kept evading questions that I kept asking. And it was in that moment that I decided that he needed to leave. And so it wasn't until he left and I did some digging on my own after he had left that I realized that he had been making some really poor choices over the last, what I had discovered at that moment in time was a shorter duration than what I came to realize about a year later. And so it was in that moment that I told him that he needed to find his own place, that I didn't know what I wanted. And it was one of those moments where I remember saying to myself, like, oh my God, how did you get here? Like, how did you get here? We had that Facebook facade life that was perfect to the outside world. Little did a lot of our friends and family know that we had been in couples therapy for a couple of years because our communication had really broken down. I had some really bad postpartum depression after my second son, and never really felt like our relationship recovered from that. And neither one of us really had the tools from our families to know how to go about working on our relationship, other than we knew to go to couples counseling, but it wasn't helping clearly. And it wasn't, two people have to show up and own their 50%. And I don't think either one of us was doing that, honestly. And so what I realized was that we both got to take some time to work on ourselves and to really kind of figure out, how did we get here and where do we go from here? And it was over the course of that next year, while I was still in therapy for myself, that I realized that I had really lost all of me, that I had only seen me through his eyes, and came to realize that it was something that I actually had perpetuated from when I was a little girl. I realized I grew up being the person that my family saw me to be, instead of really truly honoring who I was. And I'm very close to my family and I love them dearly. And they didn't have a lot of the tools either. So it was one of those things where I had this choice where I could really start breaking the cycle. And it wasn't just in my personal life, it was also in my professional life. While I was great at what I did, while I was at the height of my career, I realized I was miserable. I hated what I did. I was really good at it, but I really disliked it. And, the separation and then ultimately my divorce was really the tipping point for me to start taking charge of my own life, to start realizing that I hadn't been using my voice, that I had been hiding and, hiding behind what other people had wanted. And what I truly wanted was nothing that my life looked like, including my now ex-husband. And so through therapy and through actually hiring my own coach, who I realized could really help me envision what that got to look like, I decided to not only ask my now ex-husband for a divorce and to file, but to also quit my 18 plus year career, walk away from my 6-figure paycheck, and literally start over. I've never been more scared in my life, and I've never been more excited and invigorated to have a blank slate. And over the course of the next couple of months, I'd already enrolled in getting certified as a life coach. I was starting to really start documenting my own healing process. And it wasn't just one thing. It's not like there's just one magic pill that works for everybody, or that even just works for you. It was really a combination of therapy, coaching. I did a lot of Reiki and energy healing with my energy healer. I also hired a Theta healer, which I'm now certified as an advanced Theta healer. And it was through all those different modalities that I was able to come through and to fully heal from all of the pain and the trauma of my divorce in about a year. And so I realized that there really wasn't anything out there, at least that I had known, that could support women going through this process in the way that I needed. And the biggest aspect of it being community. And so I decided that that was what my entrepreneurial spirit was intended to pursue. I decided that, my divorce was happening for me, that it was a gift, because there was a need in the world that I got to provide. And that is how I created and where the Divorce Rehab was born. And I created my coaching business, which helps women to see that their divorce can be the most empowering experience that they go through, to find their voice and identity, to design a life that they choose and that they love, instead of feeling stuck with the one that they have. Yeah. And so really at the end of the day, what I help women do is to see that, and what happened for me is possible for anybody. I'm no different. And on the other side of all of this, you've got to feel through the pain. You've got to go through it in order to come out on the other side full of peace and joy and happiness and freedom and self-confidence, and to see your self-worth again.
Yeah, no, I so appreciate, gosh, just your one, courage to get out of an unhealthy relationship, two, vulnerability to be able to share some of the things you did with us. There's so many women that, gosh, suffer from depression postpartum, and they often think that it's my fault and there's no help out there. So for
Yeah.
you to be able to recognize that real time and be able to share with it, I just so appreciate your courage to do that.
Yeah.
Help me understand during your divorce journey some of the practical tools that helped you get out. I know, were you the first of your friends, family to go through
Oh,
it? And what
yes.
was that journey like? I know you and I kind of, our journeys parallel a lot. And, 4 or 5 years ago, there really wasn't a whole sense of community or resources out there, and hence where your business, my business align. It's bringing these people together and sharing this in community and not have the shame and guilt. Right.
Yeah. So we were the last couple that anyone would have ever thought would get divorced. Like I had said, that Facebook facade, right? We
Yep.
had the perfect life, the perfect family. We were both, so good in our careers, and it was really hard. I remember calling my best friend. I told her first. It took me about 2 weeks to tell my parents. I didn't know how to tell them. My mom knew something was going on, and she kept asking me, and I kept blaming it on, like, I actually had started a new job a week before I kicked him out. And it was one of those things where I just tried to hide. I was full of shame. I was so embarrassed. Yes, I thought it was my fault. I thought I pushed him out the door because of, X, Y, and Z.
Right.
And I also was so upset because I thought we were in a really good place. I had been working really hard on our marriage. He was my best friend. I married my best friend. And it took me a really long time to get to a place where I had the courage to say that we were just taking a break. I couldn't even say separated. I couldn't even say the word divorce. And I can't tell you how many of my clients hate those words because there's a stigma associated with them.
100%. Yeah.
And so it was, the language became, we're just taking a break. We're just hitting the pause button and trying to figure stuff out. It was interesting too, because, you really come to know who your friends are when you are at your lowest of low. It was a really amazing opportunity to realize who my real friends were, the ones who called, who, came over, who wanted to know if I was okay. And then there was a whole other set that just wanted to know the story. They wanted the gossip. They wanted to know what went down, who did what. And, our kids were 10 and 7 at the time, and it was no one's business what was going on. Yes, of course, my bestest of friends knew. Eventually, my parents knew. And it was no one's business. And slowly, I started eliminating those friends from my life. It was hard enough just keeping my own head above water and, keeping my boys, from, they were adjusting at the same time. They knew that I kicked their dad out. And there was a lot of blame coming my way from them. There was assumed blame coming, right? You kind of get in your own head about what are people going to say? What are the stories? And I used to be a people pleaser. I used to care about what other people thought. And I was so depressed and anxious. I mean, I'm a petite person. I'm 5'3", and I lost like 15 pounds in the matter of a month. Some people were like, "Oh my God, are you ill?" And other people were like, "Wow, you look amazing." Myself, like, this is amazing. Like, I look emaciated. And, so it was really, it was really hard to be the first. And interestingly, I am still one of the only people, like I can think of maybe one other couple friends that are now headed towards divorce. Everyone else is still married. And, it's interesting because I like to think that I help them work on their marriages, right? Because I think that when you see friends who you're like the last people that would get divorced, it's like, well, oh my God, if it can happen to them, it could happen to us. Like, we need to take a hard look at our relationship.
Right.
And I do have a couple of friends who even said, like, you really forced us to get honest in our marriage, because we realized, like, we thought you guys were tight and we realized we weren't tight, and we got to tighten up. And if that's the gift that my divorce created for them, amazing. Like, that's a gift, right? And at the same time, it enabled me.
It that way.
Exactly. And it was the greatest blessing I gave myself, because I've never been happier. He's never been happier. And while it was a tumultuous couple of years during the divorce and, our separation and our divorce, we're super close now. We co-parent really well, and we communicate really well. So, anything is possible, but when you're in the thick of it, your friends tend to keep you stuck, versus when you're in a community of people who understand what you're going through, it's empathy, and they'll sit with you in it. Mainly because your friends their discomfort, they project their discomfort onto you. So they try to push you out, when what you need to do is really stay in it and feel through it.
So talk about some of the joy that you have found on the other side of it. I know it's been a couple of years for you now, but what does that joy look like to you?
Sure. So I like to kind of define what that means. And really, there's a difference between happiness and joy. Happiness is something that you receive from outside sources. Joy is something that you create for yourself. And so the joy that I feel and the joy that I experience is all through what I can create for myself. I create joy in the form of self-care, something I never did when I was married. And that self-care doesn't just happen when my boys are not with me. The self-care also happens when they are with me. So I create joy in my life through, my self-care practices. I create joy in my life through experiences that I get to create with my children, and how I feel about being with them. I'm closer to my boys now than I was when we were married.
Funny you say that, because I think the most intimate love comes post-divorce for your children. You kind of, well, especially when custody is, split, it's you recognize the value of this time with them. And to your point, I don't think my love for my kids was ever stronger until now. So you just cherish these times with them.
Yeah. And we create joy together, right? It's in the little things. Joy is not, it doesn't have to be in the grandiose. My boys and I, we have our, our rituals and things we've been doing since it's been the three of us. I am not remarried. I am happily not married. And that's my choice. My joy comes from me trusting and knowing that I get to create this life as in my business, this life as in my relationship as a mom, as a daughter, as a sister, with the clients that I am blessed to support. I get a tremendous amount of joy from seeing them move through their process and to see them coming out on the other side. But ultimately, joy is something that you always have the power to create for yourself, regardless of what's happening on the outside.
I love it. So talk to me a little bit about the business and how it came to fruition. Obviously, through your pain, you have found purpose and a passion. And what does the rehab actually stand for? And walk me through that journey.
Sure. Yeah. So I love acronyms. Like,
I know, right?
I'm a marketer, you guys. Like, that's my background.
But
I do love acronyms. So rehab is an acronym. The R stands for rediscovering your identity and voice. The E is about ending your pity party and your victim mindset. The H is about healing your wounds and mourning your losses. The A is about finding acceptance and forgiveness. And then the B is all about building a new foundation from which your life gets to begin. And it's modeled after the steps that I took. The rediscovering your identity and voice, it's a process. I walk my clients through, I have a 6-month group coaching program that walks you through all 5 of those steps over the course of the 6 months. I also do it through private coaching, where I work one-on-one with clients with me versus with the group, it's with my team. I also host workshops because there are certain topics that really you can never attend enough because there's always new things that you get to learn. We're always, we're humans, right? We are constantly evolving. We're never fully evolved. So I teach a bunch of workshops ranging from topics around boundaries, self-love, co-parenting, self-care, forgiveness and acceptance, trusting and dating, because, you got to get back out there at some point in time when you're ready, of course. And then, I host women's retreats that are really focused on rejuvenation and relaxation. I teach masterclasses. I have my podcast as well, which you were a guest on. So I have a lot of different outlets where I'm able to really provide valuable content around that rehab acronym, that ultimately my goal is to really help change the stigma around divorce and to really allow people to stand in the power of the decision that was made and to see the silver linings in the possibility of what's on the other side.
Gosh, I love it. And the thing I appreciate about it the most is you have empathy for those that have done or that are going through it. I think that's the one thing that I struggled with the most over the past several years is that the empathy piece. You never want anybody to experience the pain you've gone through, but it just helps to know that you have walked in these shoes and here you are being able to be on the other side and provide that strength and sense of joy for them. So I appreciate that. Okay, you have to help me educate me on the theta healing piece of it. I've never experienced this and I'm excited to learn more.
Yeah. So you and a lot of other people, it's relatively kind of new on the scene, right? But yet not. So there's a woman, her name is Viana Stibble, and she is the founder of ThetaHealing, and that's where my certification comes from. So ThetaHealing is essentially, it's an energy healing modality. It's me going into a meditative state that is very similar to, if not equal to, the state of hypnosis that, hypnotherapists, I should say, go into, and it's called 7th plane. And so I have been trained, in how, the visualization that I do to take myself up. And when I get into that meditative state, I am connecting with Creator, people who do theta healing, both theta healers like myself, certified theta healers, as well as my clients that I do theta healing with. All you have to believe in is a higher power, whether that be God, Jesus, Allah, whatever language you speak around your higher power. That's all that you need to be able to either become a theta healer or to receive theta healing. And so what theta healing attempts to do is it works with clients on 4 different levels, which are your core, your soul, your history, and your genetic levels. And it works across all 4 levels to heal. So the healings may be changing beliefs. So perhaps ancestrally, you've been passed down beliefs from your family that you don't necessarily have control over that have just manifested. For example, my grandparents are Holocaust survivors. So there's a lot of beliefs that were passed down to me from that generation because of their own experiences. And so that has translated itself into my life that I've become aware of, and I have worked on those beliefs with Creator to shift them. But the most powerful piece of theta healing as it relates to divorce is soul fragment exchange. So when you enter into an intimate and long-term relationship with somebody, whether that be marriage, but I also have clients who, are not married, but are getting out of long-term relationships. And when you are in that, you are exchanging what are called soul fragments. So just think of it as energy, right? You're around each other, you pick up on each other, you read each other's minds, you can finish each other's sentences. You just, or you say like, I just know them, right? I know them better than they know themselves. And so what I do as a theta healer is I exchange the fragments. So my clients get theirs back, rinsed and cleaned, and they release their partners, and we rinse and clean in the release. And so I witness creator doing that. And I do not, I don't cure disease. I don't, theta healing is nothing like that. It's simply me just witnessing what I'm observing. What I observe is very different for every client. It could be past childhood memories that my clients have never shared with me, but I'm witnessing something from their past where perhaps that belief came from, or when those fragments were exchanged. I witness it happening, and I describe to my clients what I'm seeing, what I'm feeling, what I'm hearing. I've had physical reactions doing this work before. I have had different scents come in. It varies, and I never know what I'm going to experience, but honestly, it was my missing piece in finally being able to disconnect energetically from my ex-husband, because I knew that we were connected in a whole other universal way, that we had spent many past lives together. I knew it because I could feel him. Like I could feel when he was doing something. I could feel when he was up to something, and I couldn't shake it. And it wasn't until I did theta healing where I am fully disconnected from him. It enabled me to really engage in a true co-parenting relationship with him, and ultimately to stop feeling him as a part of my life.
Wow, that is so beautiful to hear. Just to be able to have that exit from those that don't suit you. And I absolutely love it's, just not the mainstream way of healing. And I think that's part of divorce too. It's really finding your way and finding alternative methods, because whatever we chose these last 20 years, obviously something wasn't working, right? And so be able to experience different types of healing, that's just incredible. And I applaud you for being able to translate that into others and being able to help them get into that space as well. So as we end this conversation, what are some tangible pieces of advice you can offer this community?
Of course. Well, my first and foremost is, do not lone wolf it. Do not try to do this process by yourself. It is so incredibly important to reach out and to be a part of a community. Our first instinct is to hide. We think that doing it alone is a strength. And let me be the one to pull back that curtain and tell every single person listening, it is a weakness. You try to do this by yourself is not proving anything other than you are choosing pain. Asking for help was something I was really bad at. I still work at it. Truly, I still work at it. And asking for help from people who have been through it is so incredibly important, because you want to walk in the footsteps of people who have been through it and who have successfully been through it to the other side. And even just people walking alongside of you. If you don't have a community of people who, like you said, can empathize with what it is that you're going through, what it is that you're feeling, unless you've been through a divorce, you don't get it. You will never get it. And it doesn't have to be that the stories have to be the same. The emotions are what is the common thread across all of us that have been through this experience. So number one, ask for help. Ask for help. Number two is, you can read as many books as you want. Please listen to podcasts, because we share some great information. However, what I have found is necessary to really move through it and to move through it more quickly is to have accountability, whether that accountability partner be a therapist, whether it be a coach, whether it be a group program, a counselor, a clergyman, but somebody else who is helping to kind of guide you and push you through the process. Because what is going to happen is we are our own worst accountability partners, and you're going to keep yourself stuck. So part of not doing it alone is also making sure that you are engaging somebody who's going to push you through and help you get through this process. That is number 2. And number 3 is don't forget, you've got to put your oxygen mask on before you put it on your kids. It is so incredibly important. I hear so many times people say, well, I'm going to stay for the kids, or what about the kids? Well, the kids will not get to school or be fed if mom isn't taking care of herself, if dad isn't taking care of himself. So I always tell my clients, your kids can wait. You get to put yours on first, and then you can put on your kids' masks. It's so important. And I use that metaphor because it resonates with everybody. We've all been on planes. We've all heard flight attendants, tell us this every single time. And it is the God honest truth through divorce. Your kids will be better off if you are taking care of yourself. If you are not taking care of yourself, you're irritable, you're bitchy, you're bitter, you're resentful, you're angry. They don't want to be around you, and you're only going to push your kids further away. So take care of yourselves.
Gosh, such tangible advice that sometimes we need to hear it that straight. And I appreciate that so much.
That's me.
I love it. I absolutely love it. Well, where can people find you? I know we've onboarded you as what we call a collaborative partner within the Graceful Exit space. And that is because you can serve this community from wherever you are. You don't necessarily have to be in California. And I know, gosh, I would have paid you at the time I was going through divorce to walk me through half of this battle and to get me to the other side. So where can our community find you?
Of course, they can find me on my website, Wendy Sterling, STERLING.net. You can also find me on Facebook. I have a free, amazing community called the Divorce Rehab. Please feel free to come in and join an amazing, well curated and very well monitored Facebook group. You can also find me. I also have my own podcast, which is called The Divorced Woman's Guide. It's available on all podcast platforms. And if anybody needs support, please do not hesitate to reach out. I answer my own emails. I answer, I'm the one moderating my own communities. So you're welcome to reach out and schedule time with me. That URL is contact Wendy. Wait, what is it? Hold on. I think it's contactwendy.com. So
love it.
Yes.
Well, thank you again, just for your transparency and vulnerability. I know it's just so important for us to stay together in this and being able to provide and hope and light on the other side. I can't thank you enough for your time.
Of course. Thank you for having me here and for providing such an incredible resource for so many people. It's really an honor to know you. So thank you.
Thanks, Wendy.